What's up, everyone? It's Andrew Bone here with BamaInsider.com. Thanks for joining our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know when we're going to be jumping on board. You'll get an update as soon as I get online, or Tony or Kyle whenever they do any updates. So today, won't have a real long segment. Just going to kind of do some quick hitters on what's been going on. Obviously, big day yesterday with Jamil Burroughs, four-star defensive lineman from Georgia, jumping on board. It's something we kind of expected for a while. Jamil Burroughs has been to Tuscaloosa several times. We kind of saw that coming. He decommitted from Georgia a few weeks ago, so the writing was on the wall, and we knew that commitment was going to happen. So, gives Alabama another big defensive line commitment. They're still going after some big names, and I dropped this yesterday on BamaInsider.com, so go check it out. I put out all the top defensive line targets that are still out there, some big names that I feel like they can still land between now and signing day. Not just signing day in early December, but signing day in February. So a lot of big names that are still out there. But I think Alabama's excited to get Jamil Burroughs on board, and now they'll go from there. Another big defensive line news that came out today was Lee Hunter, big 6'5", 290-pound defensive tackle out of Blount High School down in Pritchard. He ends up getting an offer from Alabama. He's a top 100 kid, so a lot of people are probably surprised that he just now got the offer. But with Alabama, in-state kids, they tend to take a little bit more time to extend those offers. They like to evaluate them a little bit further. Now, they had Lee Hunter on campus during the summer. He was in Tuscaloosa a few weeks ago for the Ole Miss game, and Alabama went and watched him play here recently. So they like to evaluate just like everybody else, and but sometimes with the in-state kids, they like to take their time and offer them when they feel like it. So that's what they did today. All right, so what's going on this weekend? Obviously, big home game, Tennessee. Alabama 35-point favorite in the game, but it's still Tennessee, still a rivalry, still the third Saturday in October. Finally, a night game for all the fans, all the recruits. That's going to be pretty exciting with all the LED lights. Going to be quite the show going on Saturday night at Bryant Denny. I'm excited to see it myself. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So, who are the top recruits that are going to be at the game this weekend? As far as official visitors go, there's only 2 official visitors this weekend. We'll see some more visitors start trickling in. As far as officials go next weekend, I'll get to that in a minute. And then obviously the LSU weekend. I think most of the big name recruits in the country are saving up that visit for Alabama, their one game visit to Alabama for that LSU weekend. So, Alabama's going to have to try to figure out the numbers there, because they have everybody in the world already calling them, trying to get tickets for that game. But for this weekend, 2 official visitors, both Alabama commitments, Jackson Bratton, 4-star linebacker from Muscle Shoals High School, and also William Anderson, the 4-star defensive end out of Georgia. Both of those guys having excellent senior seasons, putting up big numbers. William Anderson, very solid with his commitment to Alabama, has been solid since the summer when he made that commitment. Jackson Bratton, a lot of people keep thinking maybe he's on flip watch, because he has been taking some visits. He visited Nebraska. His teammate Logan Smothers, 4-star quarterback, is committed to Nebraska. Tennessee is still coming after him. I don't see any change. I think Jackson Bratton is very solid with his commitment. If he's not on an official visit elsewhere, he's typically in Tuscaloosa. So I think he's just enjoying the process. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Don't see any change there. Alabama's got a big need at inside linebacker. He's one of 2 inside linebacker commitments for Alabama in this class. So, there's no doubt in my mind that I think he ends up sticking, with Alabama. And I think he'll solidify everything this weekend. And maybe after this weekend, it ends up coming out and saying, all right, I've taken my visits. I've been back down to Tuscaloosa. I'm shutting it down. I'm done with everything and sign in December. So keep an eye out for that. But there's some other big names that are expected in town this weekend. And the biggest name, probably Zach Evans, 5-star running back out of Texas, #1 running back in the country. We've talked about him for months and months and months, and each month it seems like there's a new favorite. And sometimes it's each new week there's a new favorite for him. Now he has been on the schedule to make it to LSU this season, Texas A&M, Georgia. Didn't make it to any of those visits, so we're still kind of weary on if he's going to make it. But we heard a couple days ago that he was planning on coming. I think Alabama coaches have been informed that he's coming on the visit. So we'll see if he makes it. As of right now, plans on being there. His teammate, Damian George, also an Alabama commitment, is going to be in Tuscaloosa for his first game visit of the season as well. So we'll see what's going on. After this weekend with him, it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen because, in August, it was all Georgia. In September, it seemed like it was Texas A&M. The first couple of weeks of October, it seemed more LSU, with Alabama just trailing them. So I've always said I wouldn't want to be the first school that gets his commitment because if he still takes visits, anything's possible. I definitely would. I want to be the school that he favors in December, when he plans on signing. So, I wouldn't get too excited just yet, but you've got to have, you got to have a little bit of faith in the coaching staff, at least getting him on campus for a visit. And this is just an unofficial visit. It's not an official visit, so he can still use that official visit down the road. But there's always been high interest there in Alabama with Zach Evans, as we know. So we'll keep an eye on the visit this weekend and see how everything goes. Another big running back that's going to be in town this weekend that does not have an offer yet from Alabama is Jameer Gibbs. He's a 3-star running back out of Georgia. I expect that number that star ranking to change after the season. I think he leads the state of Georgia in rushing yards and touchdowns. I think he has over 1,800 yards rushing in only 7 games this season. He's coming in town this weekend. He's committed to Georgia Tech. A lot of schools are interested. He's about 5'11", 195, 200 pounds. Alabama definitely has interest in him. So would not be surprised if we saw him get an offer from Alabama this weekend. May put a little bit of pressure on Zach Evans. So keep an eye out for Jameer Gibbs coming in town this weekend, possibly getting an offer from Alabama. There's a lot of other kids, a lot of commitments that are coming in town this weekend that I think, says a lot about. Well, what am I trying to say here? Trying to say that there's commitments coming in town that have not been to Tuscaloosa yet this season. And one of them is Damian George, as I mentioned earlier. I think that's big to get him back on campus. Javon Baker, who has been to Tuscaloosa already this season. He was in town for the Ole Miss game. He's coming back on campus. Drake May, the 2021 quarterback commitment. I think it's going to be, real interesting, kind of see how things go with him and his recruitment because, he did commit to Alabama a few months ago before Bryce Young committed. Now Bryce Young's on board. Now he's still committed, obviously, and I think he still feels confident with his commitment. There's no doubt about it, but you just never know what may happen. What if Bryce Young comes in, wins the starting job, as a true freshman, and that may put some pressure on him to maybe look elsewhere. But as of right now, not saying he's going to flip it all. Still think he's pretty solid with Alabama, but I do think Bryce Young may shake some things up in terms of maybe taking some visits elsewhere down the road. But still a long way to go, in that regard. Now they're going to see some other 2021 top kids on campus this weekend. And I'm looking at a couple of in-state guys that could possibly make early decisions. Tim Keenan, 4-star defensive lineman out of Ramsey High School in Birmingham. It's going to be his second visit to Tuscaloosa this season. Now, Tim's been telling me that he's going to wait. He wants to wait it out. But Alabama, I think, is a heavy favorite for him. He's been to Tuscaloosa several times. He keeps in contact with some of the other former players at Alabama. I think Quentin Williams was actually at one of his games earlier this season. So there's a connection there. Kamari Lassiter is another 2021 guy that I really like a lot out of American Christian Academy down there in Tuscaloosa. I think that Alabama's got a really good chance with him. He's a terrific athlete. plays on both sides of the ball. I think Alabama's looking at him more as a defensive back, but he got offered by Alabama during the summer after camp. Really was impressive at camp during the. I think it was in June, probably mid-June, and then he's been back to Tuscaloosa a few times this football season. So watch out for Tim Keenan, Kamari Lassiter, both in-state kids visiting this weekend. In terms of a big out-of-state guy coming into town, there's an offensive lineman in the 2021 class, Noah Josie, out of Brentwood Academy. Alabama really likes him a lot. He visited during the summer, camped. He's been one of the guys that they're really kind of pushing for in next year's recruiting class. So I think that Alabama's got him very high on their recruiting board for the 2021 class. All right, so I'm going to take some questions, get out of here. Like I said, it wasn't going to be really a long segment. We hadn't done the show in a couple of weeks, but just kind of want to give you guys kind of lowdown on what's all going on. So I'll take some questions. I'm sure there's plenty coming in. I already see them. So we'll knock those out and get out of here. All right. I got some buddy from Los Angeles. Welcome. Is Jace McClellan going to flip to Alabama? So Jace McClellan, Rivals 100 running back, who is from Texas. He's actually cousins with Scooby Carter, Alabama freshman defensive back, committed to Oklahoma. He is going to take an official visit to Alabama for the LSU game. Pretty solid commitment to Oklahoma right now, in my opinion. Now he comes on campus in a couple weeks, falls in love with everything. There's a chance. We'll just have to wait and see. I know a lot of people kind of assume that Alabama's, in terms of a running back, that he might be Alabama's best shot. I don't see it that way. I think he's very solid to Oklahoma. I think his family's really likes Oklahoma a lot. So Alabama's really going to have to wow him and just completely blow away his family when he comes on campus for that LSU game visit. So sorry I'm not trying to be pessimistic about it. I'm just kind of speaking the truth on where things stand with him. Let's see. Who's going to be the quarterback next year? We'll see. It's going to be some pretty stiff competition once Bryce Young gets on campus, and he is enrolling early. So there's going to be a lot of competition, and we all of us already know that Nick Saban is not going to name a starting quarterback until at least the third or fourth game of the season. We may see a guy go out there in the first series of the first game, but he's still not going to name the starter. Let's see. Is Alabama saving any spots for any JUCO guys? Well, yeah. I mean, Nadab Joseph still out there for Alabama. Elite defensive back, a one-time Alabama commitment, signed with Georgia in 2018. He's at Independence Community College. Alabama's just kind of waiting to see how his grades, look after this semester, and then kind of go from there. He's not planning on enrolling early. He's planning on enrolling in the spring, but I think Alabama will wait on him as long as he can get things in order. But Alabama really likes Nadab Joseph a lot. Let's see. Erik Gilbert on commitment watch. Maybe not in the next 48 hours, but, and I don't know if about in the next week, but I think with the top tight end in the country out of Georgia, Erik Gilbert, I think, we can really start kind of watching that as potentially, next commitment for Alabama. I don't know if that, like I said, I don't think it's going to happen within the next week, but maybe within the next month, we'll see something happen. I think he is planning on being back in Tuscaloosa for the LSU game. So possibly after that weekend, we might see something. He's going to take an official visit to Georgia this weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that visit, see how things go, because, Georgia was, at one point considered, the betting favorite for Erik Gilbert. But now, it seems that the momentum has shifted in Alabama's favor with Clemson right there in the mix. I think Tennessee has fallen for him. But you never know. I mean, I do think that he had a good visit to A&M, and he took a visit over to LSU, but can't see him going to either one of those places. I think Alabama's in the driver's seat. We'll see how the visit goes this weekend to Georgia, and then kind of go from there. All right. RJ, Raheem Jarrett, and Kayshawn Boot are visiting next weekend. Yes, they are. We reported on Raheem Jarrett and Kayshawn Boot a couple weeks ago. visiting Alabama for their official visits next week for the Arkansas game. As of right now, I probably lean more towards Alabama having a better chance with Raheem Jarrett, even though of course, both of them are committed to LSU, but Raheem Jarrett's not an in-state kid for LSU. He's from Washington, D.C. He's got some connections on the Alabama roster. Played with Keelan Robinson last year. Terrell Lewis also from St. John's Catholic High School. So those are some connections that he has. Alabama really kind of turned up the heat on Raheem Jarrett over the course of the last few weeks. Last month or so after they went and saw him play. So I definitely think Alabama's chances with Raheem Jarrett have increased. Kashawn Boot, I think during the summer, I liked Alabama's chances a lot better with him. But he said, during the summer, he said, I want to watch the LSU offense and see how they spread the ball around, see if they can get the ball to receivers, see if they can put up points. And obviously, putting up a lot of points, getting balls to receivers, having a little bit more explosive offense. So I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to flip an in-state kid from the state of Louisiana rather than Raheem Jarrett. But let's see how the visits go. And he still they have their official visits. They're going to have their in-home visits with Nick Saban down the road. So anything can happen. And what we've seen with Alabama throughout the years is Alabama does have the ability to go into Louisiana and land top kids from Louisiana, even kids who are committed to LSU. Starting Bell, I think it was 2009 or 10. I can't remember exactly what year it was. I think it was 2009. Dylan Moses wants an LSU commitment, and obviously, they've been able to go down there and get guys like Cam Robinson, Landon Collins, and so on and so on. So we'll see how that goes. Let's go to the next one. Will Bama offer running back Gibbs? I think they will. Does that mean he can commit right away? I'm not sure. But I do think an offer will get presented on the table, but it may, it may have some stipulations. They may have to wait and see what happens with Zach Evans because Evans has been recruited for such a long time. They may wait to see what happens with Jace McClellan. But like I said, Jameer Gibbs having a heck of a senior season, and certainly a kid who has just blown up on a lot of schools' radars. But I think a lot of schools, Alabama, Georgia included, looks like they're probably all waiting to see what happens with some other guys, which has worked out for Alabama in the past because they were waiting on some other guys. Some other guys ended up, either sticking with their commitment, LaMichael P. Ryan sticking with his commitment to Florida a few years ago, and then Alabama extending an offer to Josh Jacobs, a couple of days before National Signing Day. So it works out. It typically works out. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an offer, but may have to wait a little bit. All right, shout out to our boy Simi from Melbourne, Australia. Don't know if I said that right, but shout out to you. Bone, does Bama offer Tykeus Crawford? So Tykeus Crawford, former Arkansas commitment, just reopened things. Big offensive lineman. Now, Alabama currently sitting at only 2 offensive line commitments. There's some names that are out there that they're, kind of peeling back the layers on, kind of seeing what's going on with them. Not just on the field, but academically as well. See if they can get those guys into school and kind of see how they're performing this this season. But Tykeus Crawford is on the radar. I'm not going to say they're going to offer him just yet, but he's on the radar. Another kid, Marcus Henderson out of Memphis, another kid that's on the radar for Alabama. I think they're just kind of evaluating right now, kind of seeing where things are. They're probably going to wait and see what's going on with Damian George, the big Alabama commitment. What's going on with him academically. Is he going to take other visits before maybe making some more offers? But I still think Alabama would like to sign 3 offensive linemen in this class. I only have 2, and they're still looking for some other guys. All right, let's keep on going here. Sorry, I'm just laughing at some of these comments. Will Bama pursue Auburn commitment, Javion Cohen? I don't think so. they had him on campus during the summer. I like Cohen a lot. I mean, I've seen him in a few camps. I think he's great. I think he can be a really good player. I know that he had lost a lot of weight. He was in the kind of in the 270-pound range last time I saw him. I don't know how much bigger he's gotten, but I know Alabama was really wanting him to get to maybe about 285, 290 pounds before they really started pushing for him. But as of right now, I don't really see him in this class. Do I think offensive lineman Brady Ward will end up at Bama as a walk-on? Not sure yet what's going to happen with Brady. He's obviously, a kid that Alabama has been talking to and bringing him on campus for visits. They haven't offered him. Came to camp and didn't get an offer, but it's a year where Alabama needs to get some more linemen, and there's not a lot of offensive linemen that are out there now. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting a gray shirt offer. I think that's potentially going to be on the table, and we'll wait and see what happens with him. But I don't think a decision is going to come for him until a little bit down the road, kind of see where some other offensive linemen fall. Because Alabama's still recruiting some guys that are committed elsewhere that they're trying to bring in for official visits, and kind of see where things go with those guys before making any other decisions. Who do I see decommitting next? Yeah, that's a tough question. You know, Jason Jones has been committed to Alabama for such a long time, and he's been taking visits elsewhere, been enjoying the process. I can see him reopening things and just trying to make it the best decision and kind of keeping an open mind. But if I were to see any guys could decommit, I'd probably lean more towards Jason Jones right now. Any new JUCO targets on the D line board? No, I have not heard of any as of yet. Let's see. Sorry, there's a lot of questions coming in. I'm trying to scroll back up. I'm missing some. Let's see here, guys. Who is on the commitment watch this weekend? You know, I don't think anybody really. I mean, if I were to predict somebody, I think it would probably be somebody in the 2021 class. But you know, the only really big name guys that are coming in, Jameer Gibbs, Zach Evans. Not really seeing anything, happening with them this weekend. But you never know. What's the status on Alfred Collins? Alfred Collins, four-star defensive lineman, defensive end, big kid. I really like him a lot. 6'6", 265 pounds, 275 pounds. I mean, big kid. I really like, his performance on the field this season. I've seen a ton of film, and I'm kind of blown away that he's not in the top 100, and he might be by the end of the season. Who knows? But he has the top three: Alabama, Texas A&M. He's taking his final official visit to Texas this weekend. Visited A&M last week. Was in Tuscaloosa a couple weeks ago. It's tough to predict because it's tough to say he's not going to end up going to Alabama because you just don't know. He only visited one time, but loved it. I mean, was just blown away. I think there's more connection with Texas right now. He's taking that last official to Texas, and we all know how that last official usually goes. It's usually a good indicator, but you never know. Erik Gilbert, his first official visit was to Alabama, and now we're all projecting, Erik Gilbert to Alabama. But Alabama would love to sign Alfred Collins, but as of right now, I probably lean more towards Texas with him. All right. What's Alabama's chance with Jameer Gibbs? Kind of already told you guys. If you missed it, I'll just go ahead and tell you again. Jameer Gibbs coming in Tuscaloosa this weekend for an unofficial visit, not an official Georgia Tech commitment, having a great senior season over at Dalton High School over in Georgia. I definitely think that Alabama's could have a chance with him if they end up offering. So we'll see how the weekend goes, but I would be very surprised if he doesn't leave Tuscaloosa without an offer. Zach Evans looking at Bama again. Yes, Zach Evans is looking at Bama again. He will be here this weekend. He's been looking at Bama for a long time. So we'll see how everything goes this weekend with him. Do I think Alabama has a chance with Philip Webb? Absolutely. I don't think he's coming in town this weekend. He'll be back in Tuscaloosa for the LSU game. But Philip Webb, definitely one of Alabama's top overall targets that's left out there. They're heavily pressing for. I know that LSU, a lot of people thought LSU was the leader, back during the summer. I actually think he ends up picking between Alabama and Auburn in the end. But I think Alabama likes where they're, kind of where they sit right now, but they have to keep pressing for him. And obviously, I think other schools feel good about him too. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. But he's a big time player for big time recruit for Alabama. Let's see. Who's the most underrated prospect in Alabama? Looking at some of these Alabama commitments, I think Roydell Williams is fantastic, and he's just outside the Rivals 100. I think he's a Rivals 100 type guy. I talked to Antonio Langham the other day, who is an assistant coach at Bessemer City High School, where former Alabama quarterback Andrew Zell is the head coach. But I was talking to Antonio the other day about Roydell, and he said that guy is the absolute truth. He is one of the best running backs that he's seen. He thinks he can. I've been saying this for a while. I thought he was a lot like Josh Jacobs. Langham agreed with me, said that he thinks the same thing. Can do just about everything. And he said the Hueytown coaches were telling him that was really his first game that he really kind of broke out, because he's been having some hamstring issues the last few weeks, and he was 100% healthy this past week. Had over 200 yards all purpose. I think 3 touchdowns. Had a big night against previously undefeated Bessemer City. So yeah, I think Roydell Williams is up there. Jamarian Latham, very surprised. You look at the rankings, number 18 overall in the state. I think he needs to be bumped up pretty significantly. I think he's a 4-star caliber player, Rivals 250 player. Jamarian Latham. And even though this kid is in the Rivals 100, and he is the number 2 player in the state, DeMoy Kennedy is having a heck of a senior season. Would not be surprised if he ends up being number 1 overall when all is said and done. So keep an eye out for when the final rankings come out. Would not be surprised if DeMoy Kennedy ends up being the number 1 overall player in the country, or in the state of Alabama, not the country, guys. Number 1 in the state. McKinley Jackson, is Alabama pushing for a commitment from him? Yes, they are. 4-star defensive tackle from George County High School over in Mississippi, has been to Tuscaloosa several times. Took his official visit a few weeks ago for the Ole Miss game. I definitely think that Alabama wants him in this class. Problem with McKinley, and we've talked about this, a lot of people know that follow us, are they going to have I just think that Alabama, it's all going to depend on, where things stand after let's see. Sorry, guys. Keep saying my connection's unstable. Not sure why. Haven't really had this problem in a while, but hopefully it's all is good. But anyway, back to McKinley Jackson. Yeah, Alabama is definitely pushing for him, but will just depend on where they stand when he gets ready to announce a decision in February. Does Alabama have a good chance with Birch? We'll know in a few weeks. He's going to take an official visit to Alabama for the LSU game. Jordan Birch, number 3 overall player in the country out of South Carolina, elite defensive end. Alabama's been pushing for him for a long time. Definitely somebody that can really help any program, any national program. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson. Those are the schools that are heavily involved with him. South Carolina as well. But I think that we'll know a lot more about Jordan Birch, who keeps everything just completely quiet, even from his coaching staff. I think we'll know a little bit more about him after that visit. When will Ricks visit Bama? Elias Ricks, #1 cornerback in the country at IMG Academy. He hasn't said exactly when he's going to visit. Wouldn't be surprised if it's the Alabama LSU game, since he is an LSU commitment. I don't really see a flip happening, at least not to Alabama. He really likes Ohio State a lot. I think if anybody were to flip him, it would be Ohio State. We'll see how the visit goes to Alabama, but right now, don't think he ends up at Alabama. Give my niece a shout out. Okay, I got a few of them. So shout out to Stella and Allie. Let's see, guys. Who is Bryce Young targeting? Well, Bryce Young has, he has been in contact with Steve Sarkisian about who all he needs to target, and you can expect he's been in communication with Erik Gilbert. Some of these receiver targets: Raheem Jarrett, Arian Smith, Kashawn Boot. I'm sure all those guys have heard from him. And also, I think the biggest thing is communicating with some of these other wide receivers that are committed to Alabama, like Trayshawn Holden, who visited Oregon last weekend. But I think with Bryce Young jumping on board, even though Trayshawn Holden may not have decommitted, he may have he may be very solid with Alabama. I think Bryce Young's commitment solidifies that, and he may still take some official visits, but I think Trayshawn Holden sticks with Alabama. I think it's a lot more solid with Bryce Young on board. Any commits flipping either away from Alabama or away? We missed this earlier. I have talked about some of these guys. Raheem Jarrett, Kashawn Boot, 2 wide receiver commitments for LSU, both visiting Alabama next weekend. I would say better shot with Raheem Jarrett right now. And then in terms of somebody that's Jameer Gibbs, running back commitment for Georgia Tech, if Alabama offers, makes a big push for him. Could potentially see that commitment happening. Defensive lineman, don't really see anybody else. There's really nobody else on the defensive side of the ball I see flipping to Alabama. And then the one guy that I mentioned earlier that is committed to Alabama that I think is looking around is Jason Jones. Now, there's other guys that Jaquez Robinson, the 4-star DB from Jacksonville, has been taking some visits elsewhere, South Carolina, Florida. But as of right now, I think he ends up sticking. And then Timothy Smith, that's probably one of the biggest ones I think Alabama fans need to watch out for, because I think he's, in my opinion, he's the best defensive lineman in Alabama's class. Can make a big impact. Even next year as a true freshman, I think he's a very important piece to Alabama's class. Has been to Gainesville 3 times since his commitment to Alabama. He's from Sebastian River in Florida. Definitely somebody that Florida really wants and considers a top target. So you got to keep an eye on the Gators with him. Even though he may come out and say, "Hey, I'm solid with my commitment. I'm just taking these visits to have fun." I think it's definitely something to watch out for. I think the biggest thing with Alabama is getting him back on campus. And spending some time with the coaches, being around the program, seeing everything, and just kind of figuring out or remembering why he fell in love with Alabama in the first place, why he ended up committing to Alabama. So definitely one that I would be that I'd keep a very close eye on. Let's see. What about Zach Evans? I think we talked about Zach Evans 20 minutes on the show this evening already, but Zach Evans is expected in Tuscaloosa this weekend. We'll see if he makes it. I do think Alabama remains in the hunt for him, but it's all going to depend on how he feels when he wakes up on signing day morning. He could commit to 10 schools right now, between now and then, and you don't know where he's going to end up. We'll just have to wait until signing day. But yeah, Alabama's in it. They're getting him supposedly on campus for an unofficial visit this weekend, which means he still has an official visit to use down the road. All right. Guys, I think that's going to be it for today. Or just over 34 minutes here. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We try to do this. I try to do it once a week. Sometimes we miss. I like to really do it on the home game weekends, kind of give you guys a feel of what's all been going on over the course of last week, and then obviously all the visitors that are coming in this weekend. Please be sure to jump on our recruiting board on BamaInsider.com. If I missed some of your questions tonight, you can jump on BamaInsider.com right now. Ask me any question you want, and I'm gonna respond to you right away. Do that every single day. So if you're not a subscriber, encourage you to join our site. Please be sure to follow our Bama Insider YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. That's all you have to do. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks for joining, and I will see you next time. Bye.